Some wrestlers become legends because of what they do inside the ropes. Others become icons because of the person they are outside of them. Eddie Guerrero, he was both. And his story is one of wrestling's most triumphant and most heartbreaking. He was the kind of performer who could make you laugh, cheer, and truly believe, all in a single match. But behind that infectious smile and unparalleled charisma was a man fighting battles that most of us never saw. This is the story of a man who came from wrestling royalty, stared down his own demons, and clawed his way to the top of the world only to be taken from us far, far too soon. This is the story of Eddie Guerrero. Wrestling wasn't just a job for Eddie Guerrero, it was his birthright. Born into the legendary Guerrero family, one of Mexico's most respected wrestling dynasties, his future seemed set in stone. His father, the great Gory Guerrero, was a trailblazer and promoter in El Paso, Texas. From the time they were kids, Eddie and his brothers lived and breathed the business in their own backyard ring. He wasn't just taught moves. He was taught the art of telling a story, the psychology of grabbing a crowd's attention, and the very soul of lucha libre. He sharpened his skills far from the bright lights of American TV, first in Mexico and then in Japan, where his technical genius and high-flying style made him a critical darling. He finally broke through in the United States in Extreme Championship Wrestling, or ECW. His matches against Dean Malenko are still the stuff of legend, showing off a level of technical skill and fire that was way ahead of its time. After that, he had a memorable run in WCW, where he, alongside guys like Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho, constantly stole the show, proving that incredible talent could shatter any glass ceiling. But it was in WWE that Eddie Guerrero would go from being a great wrestler to a true icon. In 2000, Eddie Guerrero didn't just walk into the WWF, he kicked the door down as part of a game-changing crew known as the Radicals. Along with Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn, they were four of WCW's most celebrated technicians, and their arrival felt like an invasion. But disaster struck in his very first match when a frog splash gone wrong left him with a dislocated elbow, threatening to kill his momentum before it even started. But it was out of that setback that a new star was forged. It was paired with China, and the character of Latino Heat was born. It was the perfect mix of smooth charisma, unstoppable energy, and a mischievous spark that you just couldn't ignore. This character grew into one of the most beloved and entertaining gimmicks in wrestling history, all built on three simple words: I lie, I cheat, I steal. Now, for anyone else, that would be the mantra of a straight-up villain, right? But with Eddie, it was different. It was magic. He cheated with such cleverness and a wink to the audience that you couldn't help but root for him. He'd toss a steel chair to his opponent, then dramatically collapse to the mat, tricking the ref into disqualifying his confused enemy. It was brilliant. The fans didn't just buy it, they ate it up. They saw the heart behind the hustle, that underdog spirit that drove him to do anything to win, and they loved him for it. He didn't feel like a character. He felt real, and that connection was his superpower. But while his star was rising on screen, his life outside the ring was beginning to unravel. The constant physical punishment from his high-impact style led to an addiction to painkillers. It was a demon he fought in private, a dark secret that stood in stark contrast to the vibrant, confident man everyone saw on TV. The struggle became overwhelming. And in 2001, after a DUI arrest, WWE had to make the difficult choice to release him. He'd hit rock bottom, and he knew it. He'd lost his job, his family was fractured, and he felt like he'd lost himself completely. This was the kind of moment that ends careers. But for Eddie, it was just the beginning of his most important fight. He went to rehab and started the long road back to putting his life together. He returned to the independent circuit, wrestling in places like Ring of Honor. Not as a fallen star, but as a man fighting to earn his way back. He had to prove to the world, but more importantly to himself, that he was bigger than his demons. His return to WWE in 2002 wasn't just a comeback, it was a redemption. It was clean, focused, and hungrier than ever, and the fans welcomed him back with open arms, because they knew the war he had just won. Eddie's journey of redemption is one of the most powerful stories in wrestling. If his story of overcoming the odds inspires you, tell us your favorite Eddie Guerrero moment in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this tribute, Please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the legends of the ring. By 2004, Eddie Guerrero had ridden that wave of redemption all the way to the main event. At the No Way Out pay-per-view, he was set to face the unstoppable WWE champion, Brock Lesnar. Lesnar was a beast, a once-in-a-generation athlete who had steamrolled everyone in his path. Eddie was the ultimate underdog's mauler, older, and carrying the weight of his past. Nobody gave him a prayer. The match was a masterpiece. Eddie used his heart and his smarts to counter Lesnar's raw power. He fought with a fire and desperation that had the entire arena believing the impossible was possible. And in the end, in classic Eddie Guerrero fashion, he cheated to win. After some interference from Goldberg, Eddie hit a vicious DDT onto the championship belt, followed by his iconic frog splash. The ref's hand hit the mat for the 3 count, and it happened. Eddie Guerrero was the WWE champion. The celebration that followed is burned into the memory of every fan who saw it. The roar of the crowd was absolutely deafening. Eddie, completely overcome with emotion, climbed into the stands to celebrate with the people who had stood by him. He held that title high, tears streaming down his face, a symbol of his total redemption. It was more than a title win. It was the validation of his entire life's journey, a moment of pure, unfiltered joy that proved he had finally made it to the mountaintop. Eddie's reign as champion was a testament to his bond with the fans, but the pressure of being the man on top took its toll. He eventually lost the title, but stayed a beloved main event star, getting into huge feuds, including a deeply personal and unforgettable rivalry with his close friend, Rey Mysterio, over the custody of Rey's son, Dominic. He wrestled his final match on November 8, 2005. During a SmackDown taping that aired on November 11th, he defeated Mr. Kennedy to earn a spot on the Survivor Series team. And how did he win? The classic steel chair trick, of course. He was still at the absolute peak of his game, still making audiences smile. No one had any idea it would be the last time. Just 2 days later, on November 13th, 2005, the wrestling world came to a dead stop. Eddie was found unresponsive in his Minneapolis hotel room by his nephew, Chavo Guerrero. He was only 38 years old. The official cause of death was acute heart failure. The years of personal battles and the incredible physical toll of his career had finally damaged his heart beyond repair. The man who had the biggest heart in the business was failed by his own. The news of Eddie's death sent a shockwave of grief through the entire wrestling world. The following episodes of Raw and SmackDown became tribute shows, where wrestlers broke character to share tearful memories of their fallen friend. Superstars like John Cena, Batista, and his best friend Chris Benoit wept openly on camera, showing the world just how much Eddie meant to them. In the years since his death, Eddie's legacy has only grown stronger. He was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006. An honor that would be echoed by other prestigious institutions like the AAA Hall of Fame and the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. His catchphrase, Viva la Raza, long live the race, has become a chant of remembrance. His signature moves, like the Three Amigos suplexes and the frog splash, are still used by wrestlers today as a direct tribute to the man who inspired them. Stars like Sasha Banks and Dominic Mysterio have been vocal about the massive influence he had on their careers. He proved you didn't have to be the biggest guy in the room to get to the top. You could do it with heart, charisma, and a connection with the crowd that couldn't be denied. He kicked down the door for a generation of smaller wrestlers and became a hero to the Latino community, proving they could be represented at the very highest level. Eddie Guerrero's story is one of unbelievable highs and devastating lows. It's the story of a man who fought his demons and won, who made us laugh, who made us cry, and who left a permanent mark on the hearts of everyone who ever saw him perform. He was a once-in-a-lifetime talent, a flawed hero who wore his heart on his sleeve and a legend gone too soon. But his spirit lives on in the roar of the crowd, in the tributes from a new generation, and in that timeless chant that says it all, Eddie, Eddie, Eddie Viva la Raza.